Alright, we're going to talk about Russia now. Yay! Alright, let's get started. The ancestors of modern Russians were ancient Slavic tribes. In the mid-9th century, Scandinavian Vikings, or Danes, needed to conquer some stuff, so they went south towards the Black and Caspian Seas. They conquer all the people there and form a state called the Kievan Rus. Rus, of course, is where we get the word Russia from. The Vikings and their descendants form an aristocracy while the Slavic tribes become peasants. The Kievan Rus falls apart when the Mongols invade in 1237. Now the Mongols rule the land. In the early 14th century, the city of Moscow becomes the Grand Duchy of Moscow, and it takes lands that belong to the Mongols and the Eastern Roman Empire. Now it's called a Tsardom. The first Tsar is Ivan the Terrible. He expands Russia by capturing areas such as Astrakhan and Kazan. Ivan does some other stuff too. Ivan makes a new law code and the first Russian feudal representative body, but he does go crazy and murder his son. Meanwhile, Russia manages to conquer all this land up here called Siberia. And now the peasants are called serfs, which means they can't leave the land. Now this period is called the time of troubles because a lot of bad things happen, like a famine and a lot of people fighting over the throne, so let's just move on. Peter the Great officially makes Russia an empire. So now it's called, creatively, the Russian Empire. Peter the Great is really interested in this whole warm water port thing because Russia really needs to get transportation and trade out there. But there's a slight problem with Russia and winter and water. In 1696, Peter the Great captures Azov, a nice port, and he takes it for his own. After Peter I, we get Catherine I to Peter II to Anna to Ivan VI to Elizabeth to Peter III, finally to Catherine the Great. Yeah, she's pretty great. Being a very loving wife, she consents to the murder of her husband so she can grab all the power. She supports the Enlightenment and is a patron of the arts, learning, and science. But of course, the first rule of being a ruler is to look out for number one, so when the peasants revolt against nobility, you can guess what she does. In her spare time, she likes expanding Russia a lot. She does this by conquering new areas, like Alaska. Shortly after, Russia becomes more modernized and starts to follow more Western European ideals. Also, Napoleon takes power. Side note, Napoleon wasn't actually short, he was 5'7", which was taller than average at the time. That's better.
Give me all of Europe!
Now, France is trying to blockade Britain with the continental system, but that's kind of failing because literally everyone has to trade with Britain. Like, literally everyone. Plus, Russia is still developing, and it needs all that trade in order to develop even more. So Napoleon comes in with his army, and he's like, I'm gonna invade, okay? And Alexander I, the Emperor of Russia, is like, alright, follow me. And he leaves behind a convenient trail of scorched earth so that Napoleon can follow him. Alexander ends up leading him right into the Russian winter. The cold and many guerrilla fighters end up killing most of Napoleon's army, and Napoleon returns to France empty-handed. Then we get Alexander II, who made many reforms. For example, he ends serfdom, so peasants are no longer obligated to stay on the lord's land and pay them. He also takes power away from the aristocracy, creates a better judicial system, and promotes local government. He also makes conscription mandatory for everyone. Sadly, you're never rewarded for being a good person in politics, so Alexander is promptly assassinated by people who get mad at him. After this, Nicholas II comes into power. During his reign, World War I breaks out. Nicholas makes the decision to enter the war on the Allied side. However, his army was grossly unprepared. For example, his army was made of 5 million men, but they only had 4.6 million rifles. After the Brusilov offensive of 1916, Russian casualties skyrocketed. The cost of the war was weighing heavily upon the shoulders of the citizens. Meanwhile, back at home, Rasputin, a Russian mystic, was becoming very influential to the Tsar and his wife.
I love the monarchy. You know, the Tsar, he's my homie.
Late in the war, Rasputin and the Tsar's wife, Alexandra, became increasingly unpopular. Many nobles didn't like how Rasputin had so much power over the Tsar and his wife, so they decided to kill him. Felix Yusupov invites him to his house, and then he poisons the food. Rasputin eats the food, but he survives. Then he survives a point-blank shot in the forehead. Rasputin attempted to escape, but he was shot quickly, and his body was thrown into a river. And that was the end of Rasputin. Yay. A bunch of angry soldiers and citizens forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate. This ended the Russian Tsardom and started the very long-lived Russian Republic. Lenin and his Bolsheviks take over, and in the October Revolution, he turns the Republic into a socialist state. He's replaced by Joseph Stalin, who kills millions of Nazis and also his own people. Mostly his own people. Hello, welcome back to Soviet Union News. I'm your host, Vladimir Nikolai Alexei Dmitry Ivanov Sokolov, and we're going to be talking about what is going down in Mother Russia. Today in Stalingrad, 2 capitalists were caught. They will be sent to the Gulag. This country is full of these pigs, and we must eradicate them like a disease.
KGB intelligence released footage of 2 detained capitalists. When one tried to escape, comrade Jamie Lamb shot him. Unfortunately, he survived. No other information was released.
Now let's go to the weather with our weatherman, Joseph Stalin.
Hello, I'm Joseph Stalin. Today we're going to be talking about the weather, special report by me. Suka, bled, what is that? Is that the device of the bourgeoisie?
Yeah. Oh, what the hell?
Sorry, comrades. Never play with this capitalist crap. Now, on to the weather. Today, we're going to be seeing lots of artillery shells raining along the eastern front. We're going to try to dislodge the 6th Army and push them back into Germany. Next, in Finland, we're going to be seeing toxic amounts of socialism in its atmosphere. We'll be predicting up to 10,000 to 100,000 deaths among the Finns. Now, on to Germany. We have new cloud seeding technology that transforms this book into clouds so that they could rain upon Germany.
Shortly after World War II, the US and the Soviet Union become ideological opponents, and they start stockpiling nuclear weapons, starting what is called the Cold War. They basically have a shoot me and I'll shoot you contest, and no one wins, which is very fortunate for the rest of humanity. Anyways, the Soviet Union looks at Berlin and they're like,
we need to build a wall.
So they build a very nice wall and then they shoot at anyone who tries to go over it. It's basically an ideological divide between capitalism and socialism. Then in 1985, Mr. Gorbachev takes power and Ronald Reagan's all like,
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And then Mr. Gorbachev goes all, oh yeah. So then they turn the Soviet Union into the new Russian Federation, which is what it remains today. The end. Yay.